folks. You're listening to the Jobs Podcast. I am your host, Tim Hendricks. Your time is valuable. I'm not going to waste it. Let's get right to the interview. All right, shutterbugs, this is the interview that you've been waiting for. We have got an expert photographer with us today, and she is going to walk us through what it's like to take pictures and do all that sort of stuff for a living. Erin, thank you for joining me today.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Are you busy with the Christmas rush for your photography stuff?
Oh my goodness. It's wild over here.
Well, business is good, so that's good.
Yeah. So within the last week, I've had 3 weddings, 2 Christmas parties, 9 Christmas minis, and 3 full sessions. And then I have a proposal tomorrow.
Man, that is
Yeah.
busy. So let's just start off by telling us a little bit about your childhood and walk us through when you started showing an interest in photography.
Yeah. So I grew up in Stratford, Missouri. My dad actually bought my first camera whenever I was in 7th grade. And I started taking it to school. I was shooting all of our sporting events in 7th grade. I got connected to the high school yearbook staff and I started shooting for them. And then by the time I was in 9th grade, I was declared the photo editor, which, just to brag on my high school self, you don't usually get to be the photo editor as a freshman. That's usually a senior's job. Right. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But there's always a camera around my neck. I was the kid known for skipping class so I could go shoot this or photograph that, or pretty much I had a pass to do whatever I wanted all through high school if I had a camera.
Did you get down onto the sidelines for the football team and things of that nature?
Oh, yeah. And then with football, it's funny because you have to have a spotter because you'll get tackled.
Oh, yeah.
I was almost tackled a couple of times.
So your dad kind of launched this whole thing by gifting you a camera. What kind of camera was it? What did you start with?
Oh, it was this tiny Canon point and shoot. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like a little purse camera, and that's all it was. And then my dad actually gifted me a underwater camera whenever I was in college, and that was for Christmas. And by January, I set up an underwater photo shoot with my friends, and I learned to scuba dive about 10 minutes before the photo shoot out at Dive Ventures.
Yeah.
So he is the catalyst for a lot of my photography career. And then my first ever professional-ish camera was a Nikon D50. And he also bought me that one.
Man.
I know. He hasn't bought me any cameras lately. I should bring that trend back because they're getting more expensive.
Yeah, I know. Was the first camera that you got, was it the traditional film where you had to take it and get it developed, or was it digital at that point? I don't know how old you are. So
I'm skipping ahead, but I went to Missouri State.
Okay.
And they are one of the only schools that still has a full film program. So I've learned to shoot on 35 millimeter, medium format, large format. I've developed all my own film, black and white and color. And then I continue to shoot a Mamiya, medium format camera. And I'll take it whenever I travel to get some landscape photos. And I've been playing with painting on the film. It sounds crazy, but it's really cool and Technicolor whenever you see it.
Yeah.
It's very trippy.
What did you call it? A Mamiya? Did I get that right?
Yes.
What does that stand for?
That's just the name of the camera. I think it's a Mamiya C33.
Okay, so it's like a Canon or a Panasonic, or that's the brand.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it's from the 40s or the 50s. So it's a twin lens. Medium format's that square format.
Okay.
So it's maybe a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. And then I developed the film in my bathroom. And then I scan it into digital because I don't have that full printing process anymore. Okay. But yeah, it's a way to keep that art form alive. And for me to be creative and not to be paid for something, which is always really important.
Sure. So you said you went to Missouri State for your education. did you, I'm assuming you just walked in the door focusing on photography from the get-go. There was no other consideration as far as a career?
Well, actually, my senior year in high school, I had two internships. And one was with this very like, it was Convey Studios. And she was very like free flowing, very artistic and fun. And it would be like a senior session. And she's like, we're going to go in a field and just twirl and dance. And I feel like I got a lot of my prompts and my style from her. But then I got a job at Lamb Portrait Studio, and it was much more like studio backdrop, very professional lighting. Sit down and look at your images. Now buy some prints. It felt a little more J.C. Penney kind of style.
Okay.
So not quite my style, but I got the advice that a business degree, you're going to be a business owner. You should get a business degree because artists starve. And so I took that and I went to Missouri State and I chose to get a marketing degree because marketing at least is artistic and fun within the business realm.
Sure.
And then I got a photography minor and a graphic design minor.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, and I use all of those things all the time. So it
I
worked
was going
out
to say,
perfectly.
yeah, you came out well prepared.
I think it's rare to know exactly what you want to do the moment you walk into school and have like a good game plan and then actually use it afterwards.
Those two internships that you had, it seems like even though you preferred one or the other, you got a pretty good taste of two, I'd say opposite sides of the business, but I can see how they both could merge together in certain scenarios.
Exactly. Like that advice was perfect. It was
Yeah.
everything I needed to hear in that moment.
Now, I don't know anything really about photography, and I'm interested to learn about all the tech and whatnot that we can talk about in a bit. But when you go and get a degree that focuses, I know the marketing part is pretty straightforward, but if someone's focusing on a degree in photography or that field, what types of classes would they typically take? I mean, I know it's not as simple as point and shoot, but is it shading and lighting and equipment and all of the above?
So you start with all of those film classes. So your very first one is that media, no, it's a 35 millimeter format. And so because they make you take all of your film classes before you can take a digital class, you learn the importance of aperture and shutter speed and exposing everything correctly and how hard and how much heart you put into one image. And so you have this great appreciation for photography before you ever touch a digital camera. And
Okay.
then they teach you, they have studio classes, digital classes. So, like a whole array of things. Um, if you were going to be a photography major, you had to take a lot of art history classes.
Hmm.
And I got to skip all of those since I was a minor.
Oh,
So
there
I
you go.
still had to take drawing and sculpture classes, but I didn't have to take all of the art history and education, which I'm sure they would have benefited me a little bit, but
Yeah,
I was excited to not have to take them.
right. Do you get to spend a lot of time once you've kind of got your bases covered with the general early classes? Are most of your classes still inside in a structured classroom setting, or do you spend a fair amount of time out with teachers learning your craft? I mean, simply walking around taking a picture of a tree or something on campus.
So there was almost none of that at all. It
Oh,
was here's how to use your camera. Now you go out and shoot. Here's your class time to develop film. Like you have only 2 hours this time of
okay.
the week. If you don't get it done, you need to come in on your off time. And
Okay.
so, and then a lot of our classes were critiques. So the moment you have your first image, we put them all on the wall and they're like, okay, here's where it could have been better. And every semester, you're creating a photo project and a whole portfolio for whatever project you want to do. So I think my very first one was abandoned houses. So very cliche, but a great project. And then it merged into like my large format class. So those are those like big accordion cameras that you put the drape over your head.
Oh,
The
yeah, okay.
tripod alone was 50 pounds.
Good
And
grief.
then the camera was about 20. And I decided to do women in nature doing yoga. So I would have to carry this crazy tripod and camera up the hill at the nature center, have a friend meet me, and then she's doing a headstand. And it was a great project, but it was not the most feasible one I ever chose.
Right.
I did a project on my grandma and gramps and did a very like photojournalistic style of their day-to-day lives in their 80s. So it's like you pick a project and you work on that all semester long and you're getting critiqued and they're going off the content as well as your style and like how it's exposed, how it's developed, all the meat and bones, I guess.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
The camera that you were talking about that you carried up the hill there, is that
Mhm.
the one that when you'd see the old time pictures, they would have a flash pan they would hold over their head and it would go off?
That would be a large format as well. Yeah.
Okay.
They
What do
may
they
not be
use to make what do they use to make that flash? Is it just a little bit of gunpowder or what is it?
I think so. I don't
Okay.
know for sure. And then those type of cameras also do the 10 type where they're like shooting on metal instead of film,
Oh, sure.
but it's that same like accordion style giant old billow camera.
Yeah, I always think of Silver Dollar City whenever I see one of those things. But
Mhm. So
so
yeah.
you've got your training, you've got your education, you've left school, you've had a couple of internships, you've been shooting since you were young. Now what?
So the last couple of years of school, I was interning at a marketing agency and doing photography on the side. Like advertising is great, agencies are great, but I looked like I was 14 and no one would pay me to do anything. So within that internship, that paid internship that turned into a job right after graduation, I learned how to build websites, I learned how to do social media, I really implemented all of the marketing that I had learned. And then after that, I had mentioned it earlier, my dad got me that underwater camera and I went to Dive Ventures and we did an underwater shoot. And I was sitting there talking to them and I got hired on the spot to start doing their marketing, but it was in house. So I left the advertising agency and I went to work for Dive Ventures. Photography is on the side this whole time. And I was there for about 6 or 7 months. And it's fall, like business is booming photography wise. That's the busiest season you can have. I had just gotten engaged to my boyfriend at the time. And about 2 weeks later, we found out we were pregnant.
Oh boy.
And I thought it would be a great idea to quit my job, to quit my hourly paying job. Photography's booming. Let's do it. I don't want a boss anymore.
Hmm.
So I quit and I start doing photography full time. And then winter comes. And I realized that January through about March, like until it gets green again, nothing happens in photography. Like, unless there's an event or a newborn session, those are your slowest months. You'll make no money almost at all. And so at this point, I'm pregnant and we're starving and I've got to do something else. And
Right.
so that's when I started offering social media and website design to other businesses and I started networking. And so I started a marketing company alongside the photography business. And then that's how we kind of kept afloat. And so that first year after quitting my job, I made like $12,000.
Mm.
That was it.
Ouch.
Yeah. And so that's something to keep in mind when no one knows you and you're not getting hired, you're not making any money and you just kind of have to float through it.
Right.
So, yeah.
The Dive Ventures job that you had, if I could go back to that for just a
Yeah.
second, are you I don't quite understand. I know you're underwater, obviously taking pictures, but are you just in a pool? Are you out in like Table Rock Lake or Lake of the Ozarks? Or are you traveling the globe? Or what's that job actually like of an underwater photographer for that?
Well, so I was hired to do their marketing, but whenever I was shooting, it was in their pool. And they had
Okay.
I think a 12-foot deep pool. And I
Okay.
would be in scuba gear. And then whoever I was shooting, the first time around was my friends in their bathing suits with like giant pieces of fabric that would float around them.
Okay.
And so they would jump in and then strike a pose and float up.
Hmm.
And then I did a project where it was like a trash the wedding dress kind of shoot,
Okay.
and learned very quickly that you can't jump in with a wedding dress because it will fly over your head and then it will trap you whenever you try to like swim back up.
Right.
And so that one we had to do float belts and have them like dip under and pose and float right back up. I have shot in the ocean with my underwater camera only a couple of times. One of them was in Grand Cayman. So
Okay.
shallow water, but it was Stingray City.
Oh,
So it was a
wow.
bride and a groom, like in a skirt and in pants and everything else with stingrays coming around them. I haven't done anything locally in the lakes because there's not very much visibility.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like pool or ocean only.
Do you still use your scuba diving just recreationally to travel?
Every once in a while, my husband's not scuba certified or interested in it at all.
Okay. All right.
And so it's funny because everyone I travel with, they can barely snorkel. So I haven't really been able to, but we can like touch on my bucket list a little bit.
Yeah.
I travel quite a bit and I have this running bucket list. And so last year I went dog sledding in Alaska. I went
Cool.
skydiving in Vegas. What else have I done? I've been surfing in Hawaii. And so I try to do something different and cool everywhere I go,
Yeah.
but lately it hasn't been scuba diving.
That's the dog sled up in Alaska. That sounds like that would be very interesting.
Oh, it was a blast.
Yeah.
I was up there on a girls' trip with a friend, my high school best friend, actually, and she fell off the sled. And yeah, it was a great time. I was having a blast.
I bet.
I don't think she was as happy with it, but I had a great time.
Well, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
So you're starting to take pictures. You did the DiVenture thing. Then you found out you were pregnant. You realized, okay, I need to get myself a job. So you started networking, marketing, building websites, doing that kind of thing. Walk me through what was the next step in your life during then.
So it was just a grind.
Yeah.
I went from making 12,000 that first year to I think 25,000 the next year to 40 grand the next year. And it was just a constant grind of, hey, I'm here. I take pictures. I build websites. What do you need? And meeting the people and growing the network and creating that name for yourself. So now that will be 13 years ago this coming June.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been established for a while and I don't have to work nearly as hard. And in that beginning stage, you're also shooting everything that's offered. Like, can
Yeah.
you do this? I'm like, absolutely, I can do anything. And now it's a much more selective of, hey, no, that's not. I don't shoot real estate. No one's talking to me. It's not creative. I don't want to.
Right.
Or product photography is also very like specific, and a perfectionist should shoot product photography, not me. Like, I want to talk to people. I want to be creative. And so now I get to be a lot more selective on what I'm doing and who I'm working with too. If there's a not a good fit with someone, I'm able to duck and weave and bob away, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, your name got out there, your reputation got out there for quality work, and it grew. And so now, people know you. You probably don't have to grind it out as much as far as the looking for work. It's coming to you. But that's something that
exactly.
does not happen overnight, pretty much in any
No,
job. So
not at all.
the two areas that you mentioned there, the real estate photography and the product photography, those are there many other areas of specialization when you're a photographer?
Oh my gosh. So I specialize in weddings and portraiture.
Okay.
Within that, it's families and seniors and newborns and maternity. And there's a lot of like aspects within that.
Right.
And there's there's this mindset whenever you're first beginning that you should niche, and that is the opposite of what I did. And so I don't know which way is better to go. I guess if you niche, you get really good at newborn photos or whatever you decide to do and become the expert, and then you can expand out. But with my way, I was able to learn everything quickly and not turn anything down. Okay, so outside of portraiture and weddings, you've got sports photography,
Oh
you've
yeah.
got, yeah, product and real estate. You've got, some people are still shooting film. It's having a resurgence right now, which is nice.
Why do you think that
Landscape,
is?
I don't know. It's this younger generation has this nostalgic feel to them. They love, like, Super 8 films is
Huh.
coming back. And so
Really?
that is, yeah, those old time video cameras, and it's grainy, and it's like, it is not
Vintage?
very,
Yeah.
very, very vintage. Like, it is
Yeah.
not the quality that everyone is used to. And it's just Instagram and TikTok famous right now. Like, it's the big trend.
It seems like there's a big over the last few years, you've seen vinyl records have become popular again. And when I was a kid, I'm 50, and there were little 45 records and full-size records, but when you get to digital music or even CDs, there's no skips and hiss and pops and stuff. It's crystal clear. But some
Hmm.
people really like that rougher sound that you get from vinyl. So I can see why someone would want to go back to a less than perfect
Yeah,
image.
that grain and that blur, and
Yeah.
yeah,
The imperfection is what gives it character, I guess.
exactly.
I kind of
Um,
interrupted you. You were talking about the
oh, you're good.
specialization stuff. Yeah. Sorry.
The only other ones I thought of is like landscape and wildlife. Those are
Oh,
out there too.
wildlife. Sure.
Yeah.
My wife follows a guy. I'm not going to remember his name, but he's lives up near Yellowstone,
Mm.
and he takes pictures of, I mean, it's just amazing what that guy can do with a camera. And, he's got the perfect location to take
Yeah.
nature photos. But
Exactly.
you talked a little bit about the earnings there when you were paying your dues, grinding it out, 12,000, 24,000, 40,000, kind of a thing. Is there a
Mhm.
typical, if someone was new, are you typically paid if you're just taking pictures not for an employer, but you're on your own? I'm assuming it's a package price. Like I'll take a picture of a senior graduating and I'll give you, I don't know, 40 pictures or however you package that for a set dollar amount. Is that how that typically would go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there is a flat fee. Here's the digitals kind of way. So, like, a family session will cost you $600, and you're going to get 20 digital images. And you can buy more if you'd like, you can buy products if you'd like. Or there's the mentality of, hey, it's a $50 sitting fee. That's to pay for my gas to get wherever you're going. And then you need to come in and buy exactly what you want. And those digitals are $50 a piece. And this is how much an album costs. It's $1,000. And it's like, it's a very, very low upfront. I'll get you in with this low price of a session fee, but then they make their money selling the images and selling the products.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's kind of two ways of doing it. I do the higher fee on the front end. That comes with this, and then you can add on if you want to. So I'm not a huge in-person sales kind of person, just because I don't know. I haven't had the practice, and it feels high stress. It's a high stress sales kind of situation, and that's not really my jam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, you got to do what works for you. And it seems like you have options. So
exactly.
when you're taking somebody's picture, I can see an area that would take some time to get good at. And that is kind of drawing people out. Some folks do not do well when you say, well, all right, stand here and smile and look over there. It always can come across as kind of awkward. Some people are
Mhm.
just natural. It's just disgusting how their smile is perfect, on call. And do you ever have folks where you really have to struggle to draw them out to really get a good picture?
Yes, most
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like one of my superpowers is making people feel comfortable. And so it's a constant conversation. And then another way to have someone feel less awkward is to give them something to do. And so let's take the example of engagement photos. And it's
Okay.
usually the man that doesn't want to be there.
Hmm.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to pose. He doesn't want to be there. He's getting forced. And
Yeah.
so if you give them prompts like, hey, walk towards me, and you're cracking bad jokes the whole time, and all right, bear hug her and swing her around, it's a lot more natural. And it gives them, if you have something to do with your hands, you're going to look less
Yeah.
awkward. And if you're telling
Okay.
bad stories and bad jokes throughout it, they're going to feel closer to you as you
Sure.
go. Yeah.
That makes sense. And, I don't speak for all men, but I've had to do pictures like that before, and it wasn't awful. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I certainly would have rather been somewhere else. But if you have a good photographer like you, then, you can certainly make it more pleasurable, I guess. So,
Yeah. So I had a viewing today where a grandmother wanted family pictures. And so it's grandma, grandpa, her son, and his two kids. And her son did not want to be there and told me so. And he's like, "You've got 3 minutes." And I'm like, "Well, this hour is this session's an hour long. So we're definitely taking longer than 3 minutes." And so we started with a couple portraits. He's not happy, but they had a farm. And so the next set of photos is him helping his kids ride horses. And then we got their dogs out. And so he helped his kid get the dogs involved. And so the moment I gave him a task and it was something that he loves and he wants his children to love as well, I got great smiles out of him.
yeah.
And he was, yeah, so pleasant by the end. But that first couple of minutes were rough. And so,
Do you-
yeah, it's all about getting into their interests.
yeah. Do you find sometimes if you can get them distracted by doing something that they're into, it's almost like they forget you're there for a split second, and that's when you can snap a good one?
Exactly.
Okay. I think I'm learning some stuff on this chat of ours. So, how what's what's the most common type of picture that you find yourself taking? And I can see it being somewhat seasonal with graduation pictures. Those would only be certain times of the year, I suppose. But what do you spend most of your day doing?
So, do you want to hear like what my typical day
Yeah,
is?
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay. So, my typical day these days, I've got, so the best thing about owning your own business is setting your own schedule. And so I have really slow mornings where I take the boys to school, I'll grab a coffee and I head to the gym and I do like dance classes. And then by like 10 o'clock is whenever I will either go to, so like today, I do some marketing videos for a local auto mechanic shop. And so I stopped by there today with my camera to get all of their employees saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year that I'm going to montage together.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I had to go to the post office to mail Christmas cards and ornaments. I make ornaments for all of my brides and grooms and couples over the year.
Hmm.
And so mailed those out, came back here, had the viewing with the grandma that has the farm. And then I'll probably edit. I'm going to try to get 2 or 3 different photo shoots done today so I can deliver them before Christmas. Photo shoots are typically in like golden hour. So normally sunset time. So whenever it's the summer, that's 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Whenever it's winter, it's 4 o'clock. And
Yeah.
so winter's nice in that aspect that everything's a lot earlier and I get to be home at night with the boys. But yeah, so it really just depends. Or like yesterday or the day before, I had a commercial photo shoot at a business where we're doing headshots in their office, and that was at noon. And then ran to another social media clients and shot their like Christmas video. And I think I mentioned tomorrow I'm shooting a proposal. So every day is different.
Yeah.
It's hard to set a routine because you just don't know what's going to happen.
You probably have some weekends tied up with weddings as well.
I have very few weekends to myself.
Yeah.
This year, I think I had 28 weddings. And then if I'm not shooting a wedding, like usually family sessions or senior sessions, they want to be in that weekend time slot.
Yeah.
And I try my best to pitch like weekday evenings, like it'll be less busy wherever we're going. It's great. And
Yeah.
honestly, I try to pitch some sunrise sessions too, but almost no one takes me up on it.
Nobody wants to get up early to go get photographed.
They do not.
Yeah. So I can kind of I can kind of guess the answer to this. I was going to ask you what you like most about your job. And you do have complete control over your day, but of course you have all the responsibility to make your business successful. So you're coming and going, but you kind of get to be in control of everything. Is that what, besides just the photography itself and the creative aspect, would you say that's probably what you like about your job?
That's definitely one aspect. And then I am such a like people person.
Okay.
I love getting to know people and I love talking to people. And so during the shoots, when I'm getting really close to someone and we're doing something amazing and we're making magic, that is my all-time favorite moment in my business. Freedom's great.
Yeah. You really need to be an extrovert to be in your line of work, don't you? Or it greatly helps.
It greatly helps. I
Yeah.
know a couple of good photographers that are introverted and they're just softer spoken and they do great with newborn sessions because they're naturally very quiet. Um, I'm trying to think of they're very good whenever you need someone to be calming
Hmm.
rather than I'm very much like very excitable hype girl.
Right.
And so I guess it just depends on what you're needing.
Sure.
But I would definitely think you need to be able to be an extrovert, you need to be a people person. My husband, every once in a great while, will go second shoot a wedding with me, and he is very shy, very introverted, and he will stand in the corner of a wedding reception and just shoot the room. And I'm like, honey, I will never use that. Like, there's not a subject. You see no one here.
Right.
And so you have to be able to enter those little circles and little groups of people and capture them laughing and smiling and not feel awkward about it.
Yeah. Did you meet your husband? Was photography the bond? Or
No, we met online. We met on
okay.
good old Facebook dating,
Oh, there you go.
but we had all of these connections and things in common. And one of them was his aunt and uncle are photographers, and I had met them at a wedding expo.
Hmm.
And then his sister and my sister know each other. He had worked with my aunt. Like there were so many weird connections. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy that we met online. But so he has an appreciation for photography and a little bit of an understanding for it.
Right.
And then he just likes to travel. And so
Sure.
when we started dating, he's like, teach me to second shoot and I will go to all of these weddings with you. And now he'd rather play disc golf than go to a wedding. But, if it's a wedding in Tennessee, then he's all for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The technical side of your job, I would imagine in the time that you've been doing it, cameras seem to have just advanced by leaps and bounds. Is mirrorless still the most cutting edge thing now, or what's on the forefront for
Yeah,
cameras?
it's mirrorless. I
Is it?
actually just updated my second. So I have 3 or 4 cameras. I always take 2 cameras to a wedding. And one of my main shooters a mirrorless, and then my second camera was a Nikon D800. And I recently decided that it should be mirrorless as well. So I've updated everything that I use at weddings or at shoots to be mirrorless just because they work so well. The low light capabilities are outstanding. They're so much lighter, they're so much crisper. Like I just like those photos so much more than the D800 or the D750 or any of the others that I've had.
Are you loyal to a specific brand, or have you found one that, I mean, it's probably like a Chevy Ford conversation where everybody has what they like, but
Exactly.
what's your brand of choice and why?
I'm a Nikon girl, and I think it's
Okay.
because I got a Nikon camera as my first expensive DSLR camera. And
Okay.
so I've never even considered going to Sony or Canon. There are people out there that have done the research and they feel like one of them's better than the other, but I feel like it's whatever you were raised on.
Sure.
Yep, so I'm Nikon through and through.
I think about my phone and I don't even know what the megapixel is. For my unpracticed eye, I take a picture of something, it looks fine. But that's just for my consumption or sharing, like with my buddies that I saw a cool car or something. Yours is a whole different level up, multiple levels up, probably. But what do you get when you go from just using a phone to take a picture? The megapixel, I don't know, 16, 18. What's the megapixel of the cameras that you
Oh
use?
my gosh. I don't
Like
even know.
48,
Let's
50.
Google it.
Okay. I know that what you gain by using someone like you to take a picture is you can see through looking through the lens this shot, what's behind the subject matter, with the
Mhm.
lighting coming. You have that experience to fine tune it quickly to know this is going to be a great shot because of nine different things that I don't have the time to explain to you right now. I'm just going to take a great picture.
Absolutely. So, megapixel question, it is 24 and a half. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but the image quality, the bokeh, everything's so much better than a phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much more to it than your camera as well. Like
Hmm.
knowing lighting, knowing your settings, and then knowing what to do. So whenever I do have a proposal at 11 o'clock when it's very, very sunny day,
Hmm.
I know where to position them to where it's not going to be blinding. It's not going to be weird shadowing. There's ways to play with the light, the background, the timing that you can only get from experience.
Yeah. The environment that you're in is half of it, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. What?
And so being able to plan it out and have an idea of the sun's gonna set over here, that means the best light's gonna be at this time from this angle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I see these guys on the sidelines. You mentioned earlier a specialization was sports photography, and you'll see the guys that they'd be in the end zone of the football game, and they've got a photo lens that's, 18 inches
Oh
long,
my gosh.
and they're
Yeah.
filming the stitching on a guy's uniform from across the football field. Do you probably don't dive or have a need for that in your line of work, do you?
I have one telephoto lens for my Nikon D750, and I keep it for weddings only. And it's so during a ceremony, I don't have to be on top of them to get like really close up images of the brides or of the grooms. And it has this amazing compression. Like it is just, I keep that specific lens and that specific camera, and I will keep them forevermore, and it's just for ceremonies. And yeah, those telephoto
The
lenses are
digital cameras,
incredible.
most of them, because you're not having to develop film anymore, you're it's really limited by your storage capacity, or do you just have them now to where you automatically download them onto a tablet or something like that while you're taking pictures, or can you take thousands off of one memory card?
I can take thousands off of one memory card. And then to
Okay.
be safe, all of my cameras have dual slots, so they take two memory cards in case something happens to one of them.
Oh,
And then yeah, cuz you have to think about like worst case scenario,
yes.
what if this happens? And
Hmm.
so I have two cameras for me alone, and then if I have a second shooter, they also have a camera. And then each camera has two card slots. And so there's six memory cards being used in a typical wedding. And then when I get home, I download them to my computer and I put them on an external hard drive and I keep the SD cards that they're on. And then
Man.
once the photos are done, they go to two different externals and then to the client as well. So they're always in three places at one time. just in
That's
case.
smart. That's smart with the
Yeah,
redundancy because if you're doing something like a wedding, it's a once in a lifetime thing. You can't have them. Everybody needs to come back and stand over here. That doesn't work. So,
exactly.
yeah, that's smart to do it that way.
Yeah, you have to think about that worst case scenario because you
Mhm.
never want to have that conversation with someone.
No, I wouldn't imagine that would be fun at all. What
No.
the technology, we talked about the cameras, but what other areas have you seen in your career as far as the technology or the equipment that has made a big impact, or what's a significant change that you've seen?
So they're now like AI editors and cullers.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, software wise, I use Adobe Bridge for culling. And culling is whenever you take 3,000 wedding photos and turn it into 1,000. And you're deleting them blinking and them talking and the duplicates.
Hmm.
So now there's aftershoot. And aftershoot will go through and it will mark here's everyone that's blinking, here's every picture that's blurry. And it's not perfect. You have to go through and, like, yeah, their eyes are closed because they're laughing. I want to keep that shot.
Okay.
But it takes a little bit of time, especially for weddings when there's 3,000 photos. And then I use Photoshop for my detail edits. And so before, I would cull them myself, edit them through Bridge, send them to Photoshop, soften skin, brighten teeth, and do all these things. And for every hour of shooting, it was about 2 hours of editing. And now there's a software I use, Evoto, and what used to take me 2 hours will now take 10 minutes because I
Nice.
can point to a person and be like, that person has acne here, here, and here, clear it up on every single photo. Soften this skin. Here's a bruise, take it out. And so, oh my gosh, it's been a game changer, especially as I get busier and I'm shooting more and more. I used to probably work 60 hours a week. And now I'm down to probably 30 or 40 on a busy time of year like October or Christmas. And then starting January through March, I'll work maybe 20 hours a week. And it's all very seasonal, but it's cut so much time off of my plate. It saved me so much time and so much money.
Right. I can see that being pretty tedious too, just sitting there in front of a computer over and over and over for thousands of pictures.
Yes. That is my least favorite part of my job is the amount of computer time and laptop time. And I mean, there's nights where, like, I'm so behind in editing, I'll wake up in the middle of the night feeling stressed. And so I'll just go in the living room and I'll edit for 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the night.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of pressure, especially, like, as an example, Christmas. I had, I think, 4 different December weddings, and you get a buzz buzz. It's almost Christmas. Where are my pictures? And they're like, honey, your wedding was 2 weeks ago. Like,
Yeah.
I had 4 weddings in November and 8 weddings in October, and I'm working on those still.
Man.
And yeah. And so you get those little touches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if someone wanted to get into your line of work? We talked earlier about an extrovert is a good personality trait to have if you're dealing with people and taking their photographs, but are there any other soft skills or those little intangible things that can help someone be successful when they're looking to become a photographer like yourself?
It's a lot of people skills. It's a
Okay.
lot of time management. It's a lot of being able to, like, learn the technical side
Hmm.
and creativity. Creativity is huge. Let's see. Being able to sell is very helpful. Being able to sell yourself is
Hmm.
extremely helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Your website, it does a good job of selling your work. I looked at it and the variety of what you do, it stands out. That's one of the things I thought of first when I saw it. You had a, kind of a banner below that had different examples of your work. And it seems like you can take a picture of just about everything. So that really helps to sell yourself. And while we're on that, what is your website?
It is gamblesphotography.com. So gamble like you're going to Vegas.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's what I tell everybody for my last name. It's Gamble.
Yeah.
Like you're going to Vegas.
Hmm.
I named that business whenever I was a senior in high school.
Oh,
And so, yeah, that was back in 2007. So
wow.
technically, the business has been around for that many years and then full time going on 13 years.
Well, you've had a lot of success. Have you, not have you, I know that we all make mistakes. We all fail from time to time. What is your advice for someone in your line of work when they make a mistake and you have to have that unpleasant conversation with a client?
I think being as open as you can be. Um, in the line of mistakes, I feel like I haven't had any like major failures. It's all things that you can learn from. But every once in a while, you have to have those really, really hard conversations with someone, and
Hmm.
you just do your best to learn from it and not do anything like that again. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I've had people that didn't like their photos and we had to do a reshoot. One hard conversation I remember having, it was an engagement session and they showed up. It was going to be a sunset session and they were 45 minutes late. And I'm sitting there waiting. It was downtown. I was sitting on the square for 45 minutes with my camera just waiting. And they finally get there and they parked really far away. And hey, she's still doing her makeup in the car. I'm like, dude, we've got 10 minutes of sunlight. Like,
Yeah.
get over here.
Right.
So they finally get there and I'm like, let's go. And I am just like snapping and I don't want to say barking orders, but I'm obviously, we're in a hurry. Like,
Yeah.
it's getting dark. Let's go. And she wouldn't look at me. And I'm like, hey, like, look at the camera, smile. And she was looking everywhere but. And so I finally just set everything down. I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, I'm having a full blown anxiety attack. Like, our clothes aren't what I expected. My makeup's not done correctly. We're late and I feel really bad. And I'm just in a panic mode right now. And I was like, okay, well, let's talk through this. Let's do the photo shoot a different day. And she's like, we have to send save the dates. Like, we're past the time of sending save the dates. I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk you to your car and we will take one or two pictures on the way and you'll use that for save the dates and we will do engagement photos another time. And so it was just like having that confronting moment
Hmm.
of like, why are you not looking at me?
Yeah. It's kind of
Like,
important when I'm taking your picture.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
problem solving and making them feel okay. Like, it's
Hmm.
okay that everything went wrong today. Let's do the thing you have to do, and then let's have fun later. And they are one of my best clients. I see them. We did engagement, wedding, maternity, newborn, and then family every year. And so it was just that one hard conversation that'll build that trust for a lifetime.
Yeah. Keeping the lines of communication open is huge in so many areas of life. And something that you just said there, it popped a question into my head. You followed this couple through their engagement, their wedding, the maternity. Do you develop a lot of relationships with clients like that where you almost watch their life as they grow up, get married, maybe have kids, get older, retire? You just kind of follow people's lives through the lens.
I get really close to people. And actually, so Tyler and I got married in 2021, and I got a picture of all of my past brides that I invited to the wedding, and there was about 25 of them.
Wow.
Like, I get, yeah, like this business is about building friendships.
Sure.
And so, especially when someone comes back year after year, like we get really close. And I
Hmm.
consider a lot of my clients really good friends of mine.
That's neat.
Yeah. But then on the other side, you still have to have those boundaries of like, hey, we're friends. You're still paying for photo shoots.
Yeah, there's no friends discount or anything here. This is a business, buddy.
Exactly. You got to keep the doors open. You're still paying
Yeah.
that fee. Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that you love what you do and it's right in your wheelhouse. But if there was another career that if you look back when you were younger, you thought, well, maybe I want to do this. Is there another career that you thought you might want to explore, or maybe you would have if you wouldn't end up doing photography?
So here's a funny little story. In fourth grade, my dad had copiers and printers and all the things. And in fourth grade, I designed business cards. And it was for me to be an actress slash singer slash model slash dancer. And I could do none of those things. That's what's so funny. And then I printed them out and I copied them and I cut them all out and I gave them to my dad to pass out because he was a salesman at a TV station. And I was like, he will get me all the gigs. And no, none of those would have panned out
Right.
ever. I always daydream if I was doing something else, I would probably be a florist
Oh.
or maybe have a bridal boutique shop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I love the wedding industry and I love being creative. And so I think being a florist, like I'd be creating with my hands, I'd be talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is it you like about the bridal business? Because I hear mixed reviews on that. I'm sure for every one bridezilla, for lack of a better term, you have 100 that are, it's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
I haven't had any true bridezillas. It's usually a mother or a mother-in-law.
oh,
They're the stressors. And yeah, but it's something about being there for one of the biggest days of someone's life and being that person. Like I am a bride's or a groom's advocate. And so there have been times where, like one in particular, where they had this, it was a COVID wedding. So there was a whole 10 people and their wedding was in Herman on a cliffside and it rained. And so the bride's like, I just want to get married outside. And I'm looking at the radar. I'm like, it's going away. And she's like, well, they want to get married inside. They're worried about wet chairs. I'm like, I will go dry off the chairs. Like, this is not a big deal. It's 10 people. Like, let's push it back 30 minutes. And so I had to go talk to the groom and the wedding planner, and I helped wipe everything down. And they had the most beautiful sunset cliffside wedding, like, absolutely incredible.
hmm,
And it was because that's what the bride wanted, and I'm going to make it happen.
right.
Yeah, within my power.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I'm sure there's
yeah,
certain requests that you can't make happen, but if it's within your ability, I'm sure you would. So,
exactly. And to add on to like the personality traits or different things that you should have, you should be really good at logistics and problem solving. And so yeah, like the rain's a problem, but it doesn't have to be. And so coming up with backup plans all the time. Like, hey, we're going to do this. And if this happens, we'll do this. And being that great communicator and making people feel at ease is so important in this line of work.
sure. Yeah, I can see. I mean, the pictures are the result, but if you don't have the ability to interact with people effectively and pivot whenever things aren't quite going right and calm down anxiety and pull people out, like it's a ebb and flow kind of thing constantly. The picture taking probably turns into the easier part with some customers.
Exactly. It's dealing personalities on the front end. That's the
Right.
work.
So tell everybody one more time what your website is and how they can get a hold of you if they would like to use your photography services.
Yeah. So I'm Erin Gamble Northrop now. The business is Gamble's Photography. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all the places. And then the website is gamblesphotography.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Erin, for taking the time to talk with us today. You did great.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
And that wraps up another episode of the Jobs Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully you found that interesting. As always, I wait until the end of an interview to ask you to like, subscribe, and share. I feel it's important that I earn that support from you. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next one.